All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're breaking down a classic Hindi horror story. I mean, this thing is an absolute masterclass in building suspense. It takes something as ordinary as a late-night train journey and just flips it into this terrifying fight for survival. And, as we'll see, a fight for justice.
4. That's the number you need to remember. In just 1 month, 4 different working women have been murdered on the late train home. And get this, they were all thrown from the moving train. So right away, you know this isn't just some random act of violence. No, this is a pattern. It's a terrifying backdrop that hangs over every single moment of this story.
So that brings us to our first section, a climate of fear. Because to really get this story, you have to understand that for our main character, this isn't just something she's reading about in the news. Oh no, she is living this terror, and there's a very personal, very dark reason why. Okay, so picture this. It's late. The platform is pretty much empty, and our protagonist is just sprinting for her life. She has to make this train. It's the last one. You can almost feel that panic, right? That absolute dread of being stranded, all alone, completely vulnerable. And here's the real kicker, the thing that's really driving all this fear. It's a trauma she's been living with. See, a month ago, on this exact same route, she saw it happen. She witnessed 2 men attack another woman. But she was just frozen, paralyzed by fear. She did absolutely nothing. She just watched as they threw the woman from the speeding train, and she never, ever reported it. You can just imagine the kind of guilt that's been eating away at her.
So, she makes the train, she finally catches her breath, and that's when she sees it. A newspaper, just left on a seat. And the headline? It's her absolute worst nightmare come to life. Working woman thrown from moving train. It's happening again. And that victim's photo, staring back at her, it's this brutal reminder of what she saw, and maybe, just maybe, the danger she's in right now.
Okay, on to the next part. The journey on the haunted train. This is where things get really tense. The isolation just ratchets up. You know, it's like the train car itself becomes a character in the story, this lonely, rattling stage where all the horror is about to play out. So she steps onto the train and nobody. The entire carriage is completely, totally empty. And look, in a city that's always crowded, that kind of quiet isn't peaceful, right? It's just unsettling. She is completely alone, and you can bet every little sound, every shadow just feels 10 times bigger. And then, finally, a little bit of relief. Someone else gets on. It's a beautiful young woman. She looks like she's also just heading home from work. She sits down quietly near the door. And for just a second, you think, okay, she's not totally alone anymore. Yeah, well, that feeling of safety, it's gone. Like instantly. Just before the doors close, 2 men get on. Their faces are covered with scars. You could only see their eyes. And just like that, the whole vibe in the carriage changes. It goes from just eerie to feeling like a real active threat. So that leads us right into this question. Terrifying reality or dream? Because this is where the story gets really, really disorienting. The writer starts to just completely blur the line between what's a nightmare and what might be an even scarier reality. And our protagonist is stuck right in the middle of it all. She's so exhausted, so full of fear, that she actually drifts off to sleep. And she falls straight into this absolute nightmare. She dreams that the 2 men, they attack the beautiful girl. She hears cries for help, desperate pleading, and just like what happened a month ago, our protagonist is completely frozen. She can't move. She can only watch in horror as they throw the girl from the train into the night. And then, bam, she wakes up with a jolt. Her heart is just pounding. She feels the rocking of the train, hears the wheels on the track. It's all real. And this huge wave of relief just washes over her. Thank God, right? It was just a dream. A really, really horrible dream. But was it? Was it really just a dream? She looks around, trying to get her bearings. The 2 men, they're still there, just sitting there quietly. But something feels off. Something important is missing from the picture.
And this is the central problem she's facing. The attack, the violence, that all felt like a nightmare. It had to be. But the reality? The seat by the door where the beautiful girl was sitting, it's empty. She's just gone.
All right, now for the big shift. The hunters become the hunted. Seriously, just when you think the tension is at its absolute peak, the entire power dynamic on this train just flips. It happens violently, it's completely inexplicable, and what happens next just defies all logic. Out of absolutely nowhere, with no warning at all, the 2 men turn on each other. I mean, they just start a vicious, brutal fight right there in the middle of the train car. All our protagonist can do is try to hide, while these predators suddenly start hunting each other.
And the fight is over almost as quickly as it started. It's merciless. One guy completely overpowers the other one, drags his own partner to the open door, and then throws him out, shoves him from the moving train. And just like that, one of the threats is gone. But now our protagonist is trapped alone with the one who's left.
And that brings us to the final act, justice after death. This is it. This is where all the strange, terrifying little pieces of this puzzle are finally going to click into place. And let me tell you, the final picture is absolutely chilling.
So the last man standing, he turns his attention to our protagonist. He starts moving towards her, but just then, the train screeches to a stop at a station. Cops board the train, 2 of them. And as they're cuffing the guy, one of the officers just looks him dead in the eye and says this powerful, kind of cryptic line: "Never make the mistake of thinking a girl is weak."
And that's when the police drop the bombshell. The absolute stunning truth. That beautiful girl who was in the carriage earlier, she wasn't real. She was the ghost of the first victim, the woman who was murdered on this exact train 1 month ago.
And suddenly, it all connects. The ghost of that murdered woman came back tonight for one thing and one thing only: revenge. She couldn't fight them off when she was alive, so she came back from the grave to make sure they'd turn on each other, to make sure they suffered the exact same fate that she did.
And as the cops are leading the guy away, our protagonist takes one last look at that newspaper on the seat. And that's when the final, horrifying piece just slams into place. The face in the victim's photo, it's her. It's the beautiful girl who is sitting right by the door. She wasn't just watching some haunting unfold from a distance, she was sitting right next to the ghost who came back to get her revenge.
And that really leaves us with this one big haunting question, doesn't it? The story gives us this supernatural justice, right? A ghost taking revenge on the men who killed her. But it really makes you think, when the normal system of justice fails, can any line be crossed to get it? Is this kind of vengeance justified? It's a really chilling thought to leave you with. Thanks for joining me for this breakdown.